Welcome to Building Great Sales Teams, a show dedicated to making sales teams tick, tick, boom. Great sales teams are not recruited, they are built, block by block. Let's get to work.
Bite me in the ass.
The video is recording.
Whoopsie.
You know what the problem is? We're on this little ass table, so it's like a little too close for comfort.
It is.
I got used to it after a while, but it was still like...
I'm glaring off into your eyes. And super awkward, man.
I mean, it's kind of nice, you know?
It's kind of neat.
It's kind of a little gay.
Little. just a poquito.
Poquito.
Well, that's what she said.
Oh, man. I'm going to post this on Facebook, just this piece.
Okay. This should be interesting.
Yeah. All right, guys, welcome to the Building Great Sales Teams podcast. This is going to be episode 1. I'm really excited about it, and there's none more appropriate to be my first guest than Mr. Wayne Skinner, my partner and VP of Sales. He's responsible for our solar sales division as well as our MDU division on the AT&T campaign, and he's been with me for over 10 years now, and so when it comes to breaking down my tenets for building great sales teams, he's the perfect partner to do it with because he's a huge part of a lot of them and has reinforced them, has executed them, and has benefited greatly from them and helped me build them. So welcome, Wayne. You want to tell us a little bit of your background and kind of our origin story? We'll go into that a little bit, and then the history of the company. Maybe we'll spend 5 minutes on that because in episode 2, we'll actually get real deep into that. You know, more of the storytelling stuff. This is more of a tactical episode that's going to give you basically the playbook on building a great sales team. So let's get into your background and how we met.
Sure. So I've been in sales. I went to college to be an electrical engineer, took a part-time job as a telemarketer, found out I love sales, and I couldn't stare at oscilloscopes the rest of my life. And so I started chasing sales and, kind of fast forward to how we met. I was actually, I had a staffing agency, ended up closing it down, went into door-to-door, was working with Time Warner Cable, got real tired of the corporate environment, corporate structure, just the drama and chaos that comes from that. Ended up calling you up out of a moment of super frustration. And it turns out we had some mutual people in common, and came in the next day and met with you. You offered me the job as a manager. I said, no, thank you. I just want to sell. And then, my team from Time Warner came over. I became a manager anyway, right? The best laid plans, right?
Yeah.
And
that's my plan all along.
What was it? It was perfect. It was beautiful. Then then that's where it started. I mean, it started there, and it's a tiny little team, tiny little office, and grew it into a multi-million-dollar organization.
Absolutely. So I'll run through that real quick. So before you came on, I had just started kind of writing the script, building out the opportunity structure, a lot of the things that we're about to talk about. I had just started doing that, and I was doing that in conjunction with another manager with the company at the time. He managed our Houston office. I managed our Corpus office. You eventually took over our Corpus office, and between you, me, and him, we created kind of the foundation for what we have now, right? And we have tweaked it, we've rewritten it, we've added new things to it, done different products, done all kinds of stuff. But at the end of the day, what we originally created back then has kind of held true really well. So, fast forward a couple years after that, we became the number 2 dealer in the nation on the AT&T campaign for selling AT&T door to door. We launched AT&T's Digital Life product. We won several quality awards several years in a row. A big part of what we did was, because we were kind of a boutique company for most of the years. We got into the volume game in 13 and 14, but for the most part, we were a middle of the road type company. But what we did better than anybody else was quality, right?
Right.
And so we, not only did we learn how to scale, but we learned how to tweak our systems, trainings, onboarding, hiring to produce a certain type of quality, right? And we won awards for that. And fast forward to now, now that we have a heavy influence of Apex, and we just got through COVID. COVID created some cultural changes in our company, where we wanted to have 20 salespeople making $100,000 a year versus 100 salespeople making 30 or 40 grand a year, right?
Yeah, in a weird way, COVID kind of helped push us to do, it's spiritual, but God sometimes does for you what you can't do for yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what happened. It forced us to do what we've been talking about doing for years. So,
and it was huge. And then we met Ryan Stewin, we met Apex, and I got heavily involved there. I started bringing that back to the company. We created a really intense opportunity structure that includes freedom training, which, we're teaching our salespeople how to do their taxes, how to invest, all about crypto and the opportunities there, NFTs and real estate, and so many things that we never would have thought of in the past. Hey, what you do with your money is your business. But no, we're telling them now, hey, do this with your money and create some security for you and your family. And then hopefully long term, we can look back in 10 years and say that, hey, this started generational wealth for our people. We got partners and VPs and regionals in the company now that have portfolios.
Right. Yeah. It's they don't teach that in school, man. They'll teach you all about history and if all you learn about history, it's going to repeat itself, right? If you want to change history, then you gotta learn some different stuff. And I think it's huge, and on top of all that stuff, just simple things like, how do you get your credit right?
Yeah.
How important is credit? How do you get to an 800 credit score? And quite honestly, I didn't know until Apex. And that's the truth. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's the partnerships and relationships that we're creating, and we're bringing it back to the company. And that was my instinct with it, is if I know something or if I learn something, I want to share it with my company, and that way we grow together. And to me, that creates a lot of loyalty, right? And loyalty is, in my opinion, created through several tenets of the Kodak system. And so I literally created this system in like 30 minutes, right? And I didn't really care what it was called. I didn't need some fancy acronym or anything like that. And but what this system really is that foundational stuff we talked about when we first started, and then everything that we've tweaked since then, and kind of all the variables that come into play when you have a sales team. So this show is about building great sales teams. And so I want us to give everybody that's listening to this show tactical advice in how to do that.
Yeah.
Whether you have one person that you want to put a compensation and training plan in front of them, and maybe even an opportunity plan beyond that, or you have 100 people and you've been stagnant, because we've been there before and we've been able to push past that, right? So let's get into the system a little bit. And so it's Kodak, CODOC. And this is basically how we've built sales teams in the past and how we've maintained them and grown them and scaled them, right? So the first piece of that is going to be compensation. The most obvious piece of sales. You know what I mean? The reason people get into the business. So in my opinion, and you give me your feedback on this, Wayne, and unfortunately, there's not going to be a whole lot of debate here because we did a lot of this together, right?
Right.
We did a lot of this over the last 10 years. And so, in my opinion, and this is every piece of the system too, it needs to be in writing, it needs to be simple, and it needs to be able to fit on one sheet of paper.
Oh yeah, one sheeters. It's all about one sheeters. I have a file on my desktop. It's called one sheeters, right? You know, I could build a book on one sheeters. But yeah, absolutely, man. It has to be simple, easy to understand. Yeah, absolutely.
And so what I find, and I've had a lot of conversations recently with business owners that are new to sales teams, or that they've had a sales team in place, but they've just kind of bootstrapped it. You know, they didn't create a structure or a system to support that sales team and grow it, or have a plan to grow it. They said, oh, I'm going to hire a salesperson. I go out and place a job ad, and I give them a compensation structure. I write it on a sheet of paper and hand it to them. Hey, there's your compensation structure, and go, right? You're a salesman. You know what I mean? You should be self-sustaining, should be able to do it all yourself. But what have we found in terms of compensation when it comes to the salespeople, right? The simpler it is, the better. If they can do their commission calculation in their head, you're in really good shape.
Right.
Because that's how they motivate themselves all day long. Well, if I make 5 more calls, I can get 1 more close, and then now I can make this much more money. And if you can motivate a salesperson like that, you're in good shape. And so, you know, obviously there's different levels to this. You know what I mean? There's the Series 7, you know, financial security salesperson. You know, we're not necessarily talking about that throughout this conversation, but we will hit on some things that can help you with that too.
Sure.
And so the second part of the compensation piece, is it comparable, right? You know, in our 10 years, have we ever dealt with competition from other dealers just like us, other AT&T dealers?
All the time. And solar, and I mean, you name it. I mean, there's always competition.
So talk to me about, okay, yes, we're competitive, but we're not the highest paying.
Right.
What do you do then?
You explain why. I mean, it's compensation is also, so it's simple, but it needs to be transparent to me. I mean, salespeople appreciate transparency, right? And so you just break it down for them, guys. Listen, we're not going to be the highest paying dealer out there because
why not?
But it's a great question, man. And we're not, because we have structure, we have tiers, we have overhead. You know, we want to make sure that we're around next year, right? If you overcompensate and you don't have enough gross profit, then you can't grow, you can't sustain, you can't pay rent and have admins and have an HR department or a recruiting department or payroll. You can't have those things, and the companies that give away everything because they want to attract the best salespeople, those companies aren't around anymore, bro. They're
Absolutely.
just not. You see them come and go because they don't have the backbone to sustain. They don't have the structure.
And they got into the who pays the most competition. Right. They got into the, I'm going to have the highest paying product, so I'm going to recruit people from lower paying products because, you know, all I'm showing them is a bigger check. You know what I mean? Which is important in sales, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, if that check is only there for 6 months, what good is it? Right.
Right. Well, and then the other thing too is that, and we kind of always have taken this mentality as we don't negotiate with terrorists. You know what I mean? It's
absolutely,
you know, it's not, you know, we're not going to sit here and get into a bidding war. Our comp is what it is, and it's the same for everybody else. It doesn't matter how long you've been here, doesn't matter who you're related to. None of that stuff matters. What matters is what you do, right? And if you want to make more money, man, get promoted.
Absolutely.
There's ways to make more money here than anywhere else by getting into leadership, which is what part of that money we hold back goes towards. It goes towards overrides. It goes towards benefits for leaders and managers that when they get to that level, they become employees and they have medical and they have those kind of things. So if that's what you want, man, earn it.
Absolutely.
Go out and earn it. Put in the work.
Absolutely. So speaking of the work, in your compensation, is it worth the work? Right. So how do we determine if it's worth the work? So understand that just because you have a low paying product doesn't mean that you don't have a better opportunity than a high paying product. So let me explain that. You've got, you know, let's just say for easy reference, cable sales, let's just say it's $100 commission, right, to sell cable. Car sales, it's $1,000 commission to sell a car. security sales, it's a $5,000 commission to sell security, and then solar sales, it's a $10,000 commission to sell solar, right? So you've got these different levels of commission, and too many people recruit based on, oh, we've got the biggest commission. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And my question isn't what is the biggest commission. My question is the commission worth the work? All right. So even though cable sales, it's only $100 a sale. Well, how many sales can I get in a day? Our MDU guys right now, they can throw down 6 or 7 in a day.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Easy. I mean, we got William that like the first 15 did 50 products, man.
Yeah.
At $100 a pop.
Yeah.
I mean, do the math.
Yeah.
I mean,
he did $5,000 in a week.
$5,000. I mean,
Yeah.
it's no joke. So yeah.
So then you got the other side of it, and you've got like a solar sale, which takes 6 weeks to install.
Right.
So it's a 6-week sales cycle versus a cable sales, like a 24-hour to 48-hour sales cycle.
Right.
So it's all about, can I produce the volume to replace those higher commission products? Right. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, it's a little unfair with solar right now. You know, solar is a lucrative business, lucrative product, and that's why we got into it. But the part that I'm explaining is, how do you combat the compensation question of, you know, when you have somebody that's really good on your sales team, and then somebody starts dangling a higher commission product in front of them, and all they see is, okay, I make one sale here, I make $500. I make one sale there, I make $1,000. That sounds better, right? The grass is greener.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily, right? Because of the sales cycle, because of the sales process, the fulfillment process. How long does it take to get installed? What can go wrong? You know what I mean? What actually goes in the ground? The question I have for salespeople that want to leave, excuse me, that want to leave for higher commission opportunities, the question I have for them is, how much is that higher commission opportunity making per week with a decent workload, with a 40-hour week, 50-hour week, 60-hour week, whatever you work, if you apply it there, how much are you actually going to make per week? Forget about per sale, because that's where the opportunity comes into play. All right, so the next piece of that is, okay, my compensation plan's on one sheet. It's simple. It looks good. It's competitive. You know what I mean? Now, how do I, in a way, pitch them on the comp sheet? How do I help them understand what's possible on the comp sheet?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is yeah, you have, so there's 2 ways you combat the more commission, higher commission items, is you show them what it takes to reach certain milestones, like how to make 50,000 a year, what it takes to make 100,000 a year, what it takes to, you know, when you're a manager, what does that look like on a well-oiled machine, right? What does that look like? And I think the other part of it too, which is the biggest that I coach people with, whether they're working here or friends of mine that want to go somewhere else, and they're talking to me about it. And when I talk to them, I always, man, what's the culture of the company you're going to? Because that is more important than the money.
Absolutely.
I mean, 1,000%. I mean, it's that you said the grass is greener, and that's an analogy I use all the time. And the grass may be greener, but it may be AstroTurf. It may not even be real. You know what I mean?
I love that.
On my side of the fence, I know where the potholes are. I know where the dog poop is. I know what to avoid. I know where to step. But I jump over that fence and I land, and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
You know, it's not even real.
And some people will spend their whole careers jumping over that fence and finding out it's not greener. And then they don't say, oh, let me go back to the company I was at before because they treated me well. They say, oh, well, on to the next one.
Exactly.
You know? And so you started to talk about culture a little bit. Well, that's actually the last piece of the Kodak part. And so we're going to talk about that as well.
Sure.
And so, so a big piece that I wanted to point out, and you alluded to it as well, what does it take to make 50 grand? What does it take to make 100? Well, in this market, after the inflation we just went through the last couple of years, you better show them what it takes to make 100 grand. If you don't have $100,000 opportunity or $100,000 opportunity, you better have a 30-hour a week job that pays them at least 50 grand a year, and they don't have any stress. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Other than that, you need to have a 6-figure opportunity, and it needs to be 6 figures within 1 year. Okay.
Sure.
So when you're building out your program, your sales program, you need to show them a roadmap to 6 figures in 1 year, or you need to show them how to make it with that current sales program. And that is still on the same sheet. So you're showing them not just the simple compensation of a sale, but you're showing them what it takes to make 6 figures on that one sheet, right?
On the comp too, I've been in sales a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the most confusing comp plans to me are the ones that break it down by percentage
Yeah.
versus a dollar amount. I mean,
Yeah.
percentage is so hard to figure out. I mean, what are you really making on this? There's so many variables. Is it percentage of the sale or percentage of the profit?
Yeah.
How do you know what the profit is?
Yeah.
So
is it gross profit? Is it net profit?
Is it net profit? So there's so many variables where if I know if I sell this widget, I'm going to make $100. If I sell this widget, I'm going to make 1,000.
Yeah.
You know, the comp needs to be as simple as possible.
Couldn't agree more. And so the last piece is it scalable? Okay. So if I have a 6-figure opportunity or a multiple 6-figure opportunity, the perfect sales plan, the perfect sales structure and sales program has 2 routes. One for the lifetime salesperson that's never going to do anything but sell, right? So that's the is it scalable piece. Can I make 6 figures? Yes. Okay, great. Can I make 200 grand? Can I make 300? Can I make $500,000? Can I make $1 million? Right? If you have a program that can make $1 million in leadership and I make $1 million in my individual sales in 1 year, you've got a hell of an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what we feel like, just to kind of get real world. That's what we feel like we have with solar.
Yeah,
I feel
absolutely.
like you know, if you're one of the top solar salespeople in the country, you're going to make $1 million a year.
Oh yeah, there's guys
100%.
doing it.
There's guys doing
not
it.
many, but there are ones
There's like
doing it.
5 to 10 of them.
Right.
You know, and so that's the question you have to ask yourself as a business owner building your sales team. Is it scalable, a scalable opportunity, or do I need to go straight into the next tenet of the system, which is opportunity, right?
Right.
And same thing, we're going to go right back to, is it in writing? Is it simple? And is it rep facing? So what I like to do is on one side of the sheet of paper, and guys understand, yes, I'm talking about a sheet of paper, but this can be digital. This can be a PDF. So I'm not old school here talking about like you need a sheet of paper to show them this, but it is nice when you're interviewing someone or when you're in an opportunity meeting, which is multiple people at once, you're able to hand them this. And on the front side, it's got the compensation structure and the commission. And on the back side, it's got the opportunity. Okay, so let's talk about the opportunity.
Yep.
It's in writing, it's simple, it's rep facing. So what do I mean when I say rep facing? It means when the rep sees it, they understand it, right? They doesn't have to be explained to them, basically. You will go over that during the opportunity, but they need to be able to see that simple and in writing. So the question is, how do they get into leadership? Because the opportunity is not compensation based, it's leadership based, right? How do I move up in the company? And so what are some ways that you can incentivize people to move up in the company?
Well, to start off, man, most people that come in our doors, and I think most people everywhere, especially in corporate America, or even in anyway, most people are used to it being based on time, based on favoritism, or based on nepotism. Right? That's pretty much how most people get promoted, right? Or there's the other one too, right? Which, that's, what have you done for me lately? Kind of, stuff that is just horrible. But, the thing about, and so, what I love about sales is it doesn't discriminate, right? And all it cares about is what value you can bring to the market, right? So the opportunity that we've always had, I think all companies should have, is a clear metric for, doesn't matter how long you've been here, it matters what you do. Right. It's not about time. It's not about tenure, right? It's like, man, if you come in day one and you kick everyone's butt and you hit these numbers and you teach people and you train people and you pour into others, you give back, right? So our model's always been duplicate yourself by 2. Right. I want to be able to replace you, and I want options.
Yep.
Right. So all you have to do is duplicate yourself by 2. If you're a sales rep, teach 2 people how to do what you're doing, and then you'll get to be a trainer and lead them.
Right.
And once you're a trainer and leading them, you do that twice more, create 2 more trainers, and hey, look, you're a manager.
Yeah.
You've duplicated yourself by 2.
Absolutely.
And really, I'm not choosing between 2. I'm just doubling the amount of people I have.
Right, exactly.
Right. And I'm really
growing your sales team. You're scaling your sales team.
It's it. I'm not losing a trainer. They're still a trainer. They're just now a manager.
Right.
Right. And they're getting compensated for the trainers and then the salespeople underneath them because they're building it.
So what I always like to talk about with the opportunity, and the only time I've ever quoted myself is this quote. People get into this business for the money. They stay for the opportunity. Right. And so what I always like to explain to them is there's two forms of income at this company. There's active income and passive income. Active income is sales that you make and commission you get paid, right? Passive income is your impact on other people at that company and what they've done with that impact. So you've trained them, you've led them, you've fixed their mindset, or not fixed their mindset, but you've shown them a different mindset.
Empowered them.
Yeah, I love that word. You've empowered them, and so now you're getting compensated by the company for creating another trainer, another leader in the company, right? And so this is the very basic level. And what I love about our experience is in the OG of sales, door to door, right?
Oh yeah.
And so you can take the things that I'm telling you, and you can apply them to a financial services sales team. You can apply them to anything, and the same way you can apply the sale that happens at a door to any type of sales, and you can break it down to Jones effect, indifference, fear of loss, sense of urgency. You can do the same thing with your sales team structure, right? So you explain to them, how do they get to the next level? How do they expand their opportunity? How do they get to that passive income? Okay, that's the second letter in the Kodak of the Kodak tenets, which is opportunity, right? How do they become leaders? Can they get paid for it? And basically, people that get into sales or commission sales, they tend to have an entrepreneurial spirit, right? And so this can get a little dangerous at times, right? Because you can have whole divisions leave your company, right? But you have to trust in what you're building and the culture that you're building, and that they're gonna stay, right? And so, can they build a business within your business? Can they get to that level to where, now they have ownership of their team or their region, right? And now, is that communicated to them that opportunity is there, right? And can it all be communicated on that one sheet? Because we've done it.
Absolutely.
I have shared our 18 take-home packet 3 or 4 times this year.
Okay.
And then when I talk about these one-sheeters, that's our one-sheeter that we use. So basically what happens is we present the opportunity to someone, we hire them, and then we send them home with homework, right? And that homework is our take-home packet. And our take-home packet has everything that we're talking about in the system spelled out in writing, and so they understand, okay, how do I execute on this opportunity? And so that all has to be communicated on that one sheet. And if you ever want to know how, just shoot me a DM on Facebook, Instagram. Doesn't matter. Shoot me a DM. I'm at TXBizBIZDAD. Okay, just shoot me a message on there, and I'll kind of show you our system and how easy it is to lay it out for them, right? So that's the C, that's the O, opportunity, C, compensation, O, opportunity, and D, development. Okay, you guessed it. Is it in writing? Is it simple? And is it rep-facing? Okay, a lot of the pieces of this development part, it came from, what we've learned over the last 10 years, but it also came from the influences of Apex, right? So taking that type of training I was getting from them and understanding how can I apply that to my business and how can my people learn from it, right? So let's get into development, okay? If this is one of the first things you need to do, initial training, okay? You should not even be recruiting salespeople unless you have an initial training program in place. And program sounds really daunting, but it's not that daunting. It's a script, maybe how to overcome some objections, and then what their work day should look like, what their work week should look like. And based on that, how much can they earn, right? If you have those basic principles in place, then you can start advertising, right? And so let's talk about that a little bit, the initial training. What do we do day one when someone gets hired?
Orientation. I mean, they sit down and we walk them through a day in the life, right? So it's everything you mentioned plus how do we go to market?
Right.
How do we go to market? In door to door, it's, how do we work leads? How do we manage turf? How do we, make sure that we're getting maximum penetration in the market area that we're in? How do we overcome objections?
Yeah.
The structure of a sale, the basic kind of, so in a lot of the people we get in door to door are green, super green, right? So it's sales 101. It's, we go in depth, like how do you stand? What, pay attention to body language and, tone of voice, tonality, and
eye contact.
Eye contact, firm handshake. Pull your pants up, put a belt on.
Tuck your shirt in.
Get a haircut, boy. That seriously, it is a lot of kind of just basic sales 101. And that's what we do day one is we go through the script, we go through how to work leads, we go through a simple pitch, a simple close, a simple objection overcoming tactic, and then everything else we develop over time.
Right. And so that day one, they get the orientation, they get the systems, right? They need to know how to make sales, how to process them, how to check on them, how to follow up with their customers, right? They need to understand product knowledge, and then they need to understand sales training. So it's systems, product knowledge, and sales training. That's what the orientation should be comprised of, and it should be very high level. You don't want to overwhelm them the first day, right? And then you want to get them into the action the first day.
Super important.
Because if you don't get them into the action the first day, if they don't introduce themselves to a customer on the first day, you're not going to know what they're made of, and you're not going to scare them away. And let me tell you, when you're hiring in any type of volume, at some point you need to scare them so they understand, hey, this is not for the faint of heart.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And it depends on what your sales position is. If you got an inbound sales position and your guys are order takers, a lot of this stuff can apply. But that's that position may be for the faint of heart. I've had inbound salespeople come into our company and try to do what we do, and they fall apart.
They always want to try to find an easier, softer way, right?
Yeah, they want to advertise on the internet.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I'm just kidding.
Especially the world we live in now, brother.
Okay, so in their development, obviously that they're going to have a trainer. The trainer's going to train them as well. And they've got to understand at the next level when they become a trainer, now they're going to get trained on training. We love one of our most pivotal pieces of training is train the trainer.
Agreed.
And it's because you may be a good salesperson, but you don't know how to train. You know what I'm saying? Or you may not know how to train. You may have that natural instinct to be able to teach other people to do what you do. But when you have it laid out, step 1, step 2, step 3, check off, check off, check off. I did this, I did that. Then when you finish that, you've covered everything because you were trained on how to do it properly. And that can create quality control within your company at a very, very early stage. So make sure that as you develop your sales team, you are developing your trainer training. All right. So some of the questions you have to ask yourself when you already have a sales program in place is, are we investing in their development, whether it's as a rep, as a trainer, as a leader, and then most importantly, and this may be a huge cultural piece that we'll get into, but as a human, right? Because when you have an entry-level position like we've had for 10 years, whether it be appointment setter or door-to-door on the cable side or all the other positions we've had, a lot of times you're getting somebody that came from a one-parent household, somebody that came from a no-parent household, somebody that wasn't taught how to do life. You know what I mean? And Wayne, if I could ever give you one compliment and that was all I would be allowed to be, it would be that you're an amazing, amazing, amazing counselor. And I think that's what's made you so successful in the position that you're in, because you minister and you counsel and you listen to these people that come in, and they come in from all different walks of life and they just want a shot. And we give them the shot and they screw it up because they've learned bad habits. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
or they're just 20 years old. I did a lot of stupid shit when I was 20. You know what I'm saying?
30. Same, man. I get it. It's kind of been an ongoing kind of a joke that I've said for years, is that, this isn't heaven and I'm not hiring angels, right? Let's figure out how we can just make you a better person. And you're right, man. It really is, kind of the role I've played for years. And, just how can I help you be the best version of you? How can I help you? Hey, if you leave here tomorrow and you decide to go do whatever, man, I wish you the very best in life. And I hope that you took something with you that I taught you, that you're able to be a better person when you leave here.
Impact, baby. Impact.
That's it.
Absolutely. So that's development. Again, in writing, simple rep facing, initial training. How do we invest in their development? You got to have these three pieces at a very entry level: compensation, opportunity, and development along the way. All right. So let's talk about my wheelhouse. Let's talk about what's made me successful.
Yep.
Right. And I would say that, if we were to split up the companies into two pieces, one is sales and one is operations, that I would head the operations piece and you would head the sales piece, right?
All day long.
All day long. That's what we love doing, right? And so operations is the fourth letter of CODOC. It's the second O in CODOC. And again, getting back to it. Now, this is not sales facing, right? But it is in a sense, right? When we talked about orientation and doing that initial training, this is operations is a piece of those systems, right? And how all the systems work together to support the sales team. And so is it in writing? And then is your product offering simple, and does it have a low and a high option, right? So I recently did some consulting for a credit repair company, right?
Yeah.
And these guys are national. I mean, it's an amazing company. They're doing massive numbers.
Right.
And their salespeople are burnt out because they're doing so much volume. And so what happens when you do that is, your guys are going to make six figures, you know what I'm saying? But they are on the phone all day signing up people for credit repair, you know what I'm saying? And so you've got guys that are closing, 70, 80% of everything that comes across their desk, right? And then you've got, guys that are new, maybe there for 6 months, and they're closing, 50, 60%, right? You've got to have an opportunity for the guys that are closing at a higher rate, more experience, been there longer, you know what I'm saying, proven themselves, to make more commission in less time, right? So that's where the high and low option come from, you know what I mean? And, like in solar, it takes care of itself, right? So you've got systems that are 5 kilowatts, you've got systems that are 10. You sold a system that was 24 kilowatts?
Yeah, it was 24.
Yeah, $123,000 solar system. Still the biggest solar cell that we've had to date, right?
Right.
Awesome. So you got to have a low and a high option, and understand everything that I'm talking about in operations relates to sales. I'm not talking about, I don't know. I have a sales company, so you guys know operations probably better than I do because all my operations are sales based, right? So let's talk about the tools. Do they have the right ones? So whenever I first started out, I spent all the money on all the tools. You know what I'm saying? The canvassing softwares, the Cardone training, that was a good one. The the virtual trainings, the guest speakers, our guys had swag to the ears, you know what I mean? And so I definitely overcompensated because we were making a crap load of money and I wanted to put it back in the company in the same way that I could put $10,000 into recruiting and get, 50 salespeople on the other side of it. I wanted to be able to do the same thing with all the other tools that we used. And it didn't always work out, right? So you got to be selective about your tools. You got to have the right ones. And you got it. Those tools have to make the salespeople's job easier and have to enable them to make more money, right? And so I can get real specific in the tools for commission sales, for telemarketing and all that, but I won't. I'm guessing we're going to have another episode with another company that's going to be a lot better for that. So we'll get into that later. But at the end of the day, do they have the right tools to do the job? Mm-hmm. And typically, if they have to, if your people are purchasing their own tools, that's when you know you haven't provided them with enough, because they're finding solutions on their own. First of all, keep that salesperson, because they obviously recognized a problem, and now they're gonna solve it, right? All right, so tell me about fulfillment. Tell me about your frustrations with fulfillment and what can happen if you don't have a good fulfillment process in place.
Man, lots, that's the uncontrollable, right? Mm-hmm. In sales, the worst thing for a salesperson is the things they can't control. If we're in front of a customer, mm-hmm. we have all the control. We can finagle it. We can, there's juxtapositions. There's things we can do, right, to get the sale. But when it's closed, it's done, right? They love it. They're on board. But the fulfillment side is where everything changes, because you don't have control. Right. On AT&T, it was technicians. Mm-hmm. The technicians wouldn't show up. Union based
technicians.
Yeah, I mean, they're like, we'll be there between 8 and Thursday, and it's like, what the hell, and so you got customers that are frustrated, and mm-hmm. it just that whole deal. Then commercial was a whole other thing, with DirecTV and the installer, and just you got to get permission from the owner. It was just all this stuff that happened on the back end. And then, dude, solar is a whole other world of fulfillment. Yeah. We made the mistake of going with the wrong EPC in the beginning, and mm-hmm. It's still a nightmare. It's been 6 months.
We're still
still a nightmare.
We're still spending money on those customers.
Still spending money on the customers. Still waiting for things to be done. Still trying to,
not ruin our reputation. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, man, and that's just that. That's why you can have strong owners mm-hmm. and leaders in place that step up, and I'm on the phone with those customers all the time. Yeah, I'm touching base with them once a week, once every couple of weeks, and dropping off gift cards and just doing whatever I can to try to make it right, man. Yeah, because we're at that's the thing about the fulfillment, the actual fulfillment side, is that we don't have any control. However, mm-hmm. we get 100% of the blame. Yeah. Right. So,
because you're the one that brought it to them.
That's it. And then also, honestly, you should burden that blame.
Hell yeah.
You should throw it on your shoulders, and you should say, you know what? I'm going to do whatever I can mm-hmm. do to make this right. And if I can't I'm going to at least make it as comfortable as possible while you're going through this to make it right.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the question with fulfillment is, are your people losing sales in it, or do they have the opportunity to lose sales in it? And if they do, then you need to fix that problem in your operations on the sales side. So you can have high commissions and you can do huge volume all day, but at the end of the day, if the product doesn't get to the customer, what does it matter?
That's it.
And I've dealt with my guys getting recruited away to companies that the product didn't get to the customer for months, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden they were back at my door because they hadn't gotten a paycheck yet. They've been working there 3 months, and the product took forever to get to the customer, had issues, got pushed out, whatever the case is. And all of a sudden they're back at my door like, hey, I got to feed my family. Like, this is ridiculous. So you got to make sure that if your fulfillment process takes a long time, that you can get money to them up front, and that you have a system in place on the operations end that can get that product to the customer so that the deal's done and the commission is earned, right? All right, so here's another one, right? So the reason that I love subbing out the fulfillment, right? So we thought we were going to start an EPC, and then we decided, no, we're going to sub this out. Yeah, we're gonna let the pros do this.
Amen.
The reason I love doing that is because if I have an increase in business, all right, so any product that you sell, like it's like drop shipping, right? I don't want to be UPS. I don't want to be FedEx. You know what I'm saying? I want to sell the product, punch in the customer's name, address, and credit card info, and send it off.
Yep.
That's, if every fulfillment operation could work like Amazon, we'd be in great shape. You know what I mean? And so
Or
if
Chick-fil-A.
if your business is the product, I understand that's your product. You got to fulfill it. You know what I'm saying? But you got to make sure that part is on point, or your salespeople are going to lose money and they're not going to stick.
Yep,
right?
yep.
All right. So the question is, can you handle a large increase in business? And the fulfillment partners that we have can handle the large increases. I could sell 20 solar deals tomorrow. You know what I mean? And we typically do anywhere from 2 to 5 a week, right? I can sell 20 solar deals tomorrow and they can handle it
Easily.
So that's the question that you have to ask yourself. If you 5X your business, if you go crazy on recruiting, can you even handle the business that building a great sales team is going to bring you? All right. So a large piece of operations is recruiting. If you're not feeding your sales team new people, one, the culture is going to die. You know what I mean? Because typically what happens is everybody that comes through your system, no matter how great the system is, it doesn't mean that they're a good fit for it, right? So you're going to have complaints. You're going to have, what we like to call in sales cancers. People that come in and they ruin it for everybody kind of thing. One bad apple spoils the bunch, right?
Right.
So let's talk about how important recruiting is. How important is new blood, Wayne?
It's the lifeblood. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's not only the cancers, but it's also just bringing in new faces, new personalities. I mean, it's like a family, right? Your brothers or sisters get married, and there's a new family member, and they're kind of weird, but you want to get to know them.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a jerk to them. You want to
Yeah.
get to know them. But then that weird family member is, also works at Google, and they're super smart, and they have all kinds of stuff they can teach you, or
for the federal government.
Or the the federal government. Yeah, that's true. It's wild. But yeah, I mean, it's vitally important, man. You got to have new people coming in, and I can always tell when recruiting has to come up, because it's also a lot like a family, that when you don't have that new blood, you start little infighting happens. People picking on each other, and because
Just been spending too much time together.
spending too much. So we got to mix that up, right?
Gotta mix that up
We
a
got
little
to
bit,
add some
yeah.
people to it. So yeah, for sure.
Okay, so when we're recruiting, there's some things I want you to focus on. I want our listeners to focus on.
Yep.
Is the position presented properly? Are what you are saying in the ad, is it true? If you're saying you can make $100,000, do you have people on your sales team right now that are making $100,000? You know what I'm saying? So can you prove that? If not, then don't advertise it. You know what I mean? There's different ways. Once they get in the door and they're interested in the position, you can talk to them about the opportunities and the possibilities, right? Sometimes $100,000 is a possibility. It's not necessarily a given for the position, right? And there's a reason that when you post an ad, they make you pick an income range, because they want you to kind of be tied to that. That's the tough part about sales, is we want to overpromise, because we know that if the right person comes in, they're going to knock it out of the park. They're going to make $100,000, right? So
Is it possible, or is it probable?
is it possible, or is it probable? Yeah, that's a great way to explain it. So is there a referral program? So I would tell you right now, with 100% conviction, that if one of my salespeople refers someone to our team, a new person to work for us and sell for us, that person that they bring on is going to be 3 times more stickier and more effective than somebody that I recruit organically. And that's just the fact of it. Because by the time that person comes on, they know all about the position, they know about the product, and they know about the challenges, because their friend or family or whoever recruited them has explained all of this to them already.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
And so next, is the recruiting systematized? You don't recruit 80 people a month without having good systems in place, right? And so a lot of times you can incentivize your staff on the recruiting end, because in order for somebody to show up for an opportunity meeting, typically you have to talk to them. You know, there's email systems, there's messaging systems and stuff, and the people will show up. But if you want the highest conversion rate, get somebody on the phone with them, and they're more likely going to show up because the human interaction starts, right? And you can't do that without good systems in place.
Yeah, and really the top tier best people probably aren't going to show up off of a text or an email. Mm-hmm. It's going to require a phone call.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to require somebody physically talking to them. The low-hanging fruit
will happen off of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know. And then now the job market we're in now, I mean, recruiting's tough because you got people applying to jobs saying they're going to show up for an interview just so they can check that box off for so unemployment or whatever. Right, exactly.
Absolutely. So there's some filters that need to be put in place, especially when you're recruiting at a high volume. You know, you want your mission statement and your values to be prevalent in the job ad and to be something that's talked about before they come in. You want your social media. Your social media is a big one. Whether you know it or not, one of the first things people do when they apply for the position on your sales team is they Google you and they Google your company. And so you better be knowing what those results are. And you better be working on those results, whether it's with an SEO company, whether it's with a PR company, or simply by posting to your social media. I want you guys to go check out a few pages right now. There's Argenta Field Solutions, and it's Facebook /Team Argenta is the page. And then on Instagram, it's I
think it's Argenta FS.
Yeah, on Instagram, it's Argenta FS. On Facebook, I think it's Team Argenta or Argenta FS. Either way, go check it out. Helios Power is another one. That's our solar brand. Go check that out. I'm very proud of our social media. You know what I mean? And it needs some work like everything else. But our VA, Nika, has done a great job with it. And you'll see a good mix of, you know, culture stuff. You'll see a good mix of people making money. You'll see a good mix of sales training. You know what I mean? So make sure when these candidates Google you and they go to your social media that it represents the company and the culture, right? And if you have to, and I'm going to do a phone sites plug here, because some of y'all's companies are product based, right? So if all I had was Helios Power and I was recruiting for my Helios Power sales teams, then when you go to the Helios Power page, it's positioned to customers. It's not positioned to candidates, right? So an easy way to circumvent that is in the job posting, don't put your product website, put your phone sites. And on that phone sites, it's going to contain testimonials from other salespeople. It's going to contain, you know, maybe some positioning to commission structure, opportunity. You know, it's going to contain maybe a video of a sales training. It's going to contain things that will incentivize people to come in and learn more about the opportunity, just like you would a product. So phone sites can do that for you as well. All right, guys. Onboarding. Onboarding is a big one. You know, if you don't have a digital application by now, go get it done right now. It's very easy. You can knock that out. You can use companies like HelloSign is one of the easy ones. I know, what is Ryan Stewman's digital contract company called? All right, just go to Sales Talks with Sales Pro on Facebook.
I can't remember.
And Google and search digital contracts and Sales Talks with Sales Pros. I know he's posted it in there, and it's super cheap and effective. And that's one of the ways that you can do the applications. And here's the beautiful thing: once they fill out the application, you've got their information now, and you can push that into your CRM. You can push that into, the employment verification, all that good stuff. So. Now you're systemizing your systems, and they don't have to fill out the same freaking form 4 times like we used to when we got jobs when we were younger. Anyways, is your onboarding systematic and simple? So this is all part of the recruiting machine. And just to kind of validate this operations piece and the recruiting piece, you know, and again, this is my wheelhouse, so I've been talking most of this time, but can you kind of explain how that's enabled you in terms of the recruiting that's been in place since you've been here at Argenta?
the recruiting. So it's kind of interesting for me because I owned a staffing agency, right? So I was a recruiter and a headhunter for years before I went into door to door. So I really appreciate a good recruiting system, like when it all works out. And so what it enables, a good recruiting system enables a sales manager or a CSO, a sales leader, basically, to not have to deal with the little tedious things like, oh, can I get a copy of your ID? And I need to get a picture of this. And did you go do your drug test? And, did it pass? How did that go? What's the background check look like? I'm not having to do all that tedious stuff. If you have a strong recruiting process, onboarding process, and enable operations teams to handle all that stuff for you. I mean, literally, it's like, hey, here's a link. I need you to sign that. And that's going to trigger everything else. Yeah. So you fill out the application. Now you get the independent contractor agreement. Then you're going to upload your direct deposit information. You're going to take a picture of yourself. You're going to take a picture of your ID. You're going to upload all that stuff. Yeah. And then that goes into our back system. And then all they have to do is a mouth swab drug test, because you got to have one on file. And then we'll run the background check on the back end.
Awesome.
So yeah.
All right, so let's get into the last piece of the Kodak system, which is culture. Man, we both got a cough left over from COVID.
Yeah, man, it's we've been talking for a couple hours now, so it's starting.
Yeah,
to really
like it's irritating.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the last piece of the Kodak system, culture. Okay, so this is even culture. Even the culture needs to be in writing, and it's a tough thing to put the culture in writing. But they just need to see a visual representation of it. And oftentimes, the visual representation of that is a few pictures of people having a good time. So whether it's on your phone site, whether it's in your opportunity meeting, you know what I mean? Or whether it's on your walls, there needs to be a visual representation of the culture at your company. And so let's talk about the most exciting piece of culture, which is competition.
Yeah.
So have we ever done any competitions before?
I mean, always do. We're always competing. I mean, sales is competition brings out the beast in salespeople, right? A good salesperson is competitive, right? At a whole bunch of different levels, right? So yeah, I mean, we do competitions just about every week.
Yeah.
And you can do ones that don't require money. I mean, you can do, we have our Throwdown Thursdays, or,
So tell people some of the throwdowns that we've done. And again, our demographic, typically we hire 20 to 25. Okay. So we get to have a little more fun than most sales companies or people that have sales teams, because let's be honest, a lot of you guys are PC, right? And so we get to have a little more fun than you guys do. I have been sued 4 or 5 times. So, but we won. Worth it.
We won.
We won, and it was worth it.
Man, we've done all. So then on Thursdays, just so you guys know, you have 2 people. Basically, one salesperson calls out another one. It's like, I'm going to beat you today, and you go head to head, and then the loser has consequences, right? And we've done, the pie in the face. We've done, we've done some weird stuff, man. We've done wearing a wig at team night, a big pink wig.
What about you daddies?
We've done you daddies, and the way I can do a whole.
You got to explain the you daddy.
I can do a whole podcast on you. So you daddy is the loser has to reply to the winner with you daddy, no matter what the question is.
Yeah,
So
like, who's the best salesman ever?
Yeah, you get it right. See,
I tried.
I was born at night, not last night. But you do it at team night. So you're out at a restaurant. You're in a public environment, and you're like, yeah, you get how that goes. But I mean, there's that. I mean, there's stars. There's Spider-Man. So there's hot dog straw. That's
oh man,
that one's wild. Where you hollow out a hot dog, and they got to drink a drink through the hot dog.
So we'll reel it back in here.
Yeah.
Simply develop. Let's just say you have 5 salespeople. Develop a ranking system, and make it based on sales volume and quality. right? Make it based on very specific metrics and then track those metrics. And if it takes an admin doing it manually once a day, then do that, right? Get that in front of your salespeople and make sure they know who the top dog is, right? And so make sure you also have random competitions. Walk in, throw $1,000 cash on the table, and top, seller today takes this minimum 5 sales, stuff like that. Monthly competitions are always solid. So you can do monthly, you can do quarterly, you can do annually, obviously. But monthly is long enough to where they have something to work towards all month and it increases their paychecks, and short enough to where they get that satisfaction,
Keeps their attention.
Keeps their attention. Exactly. Yeah. And so, another big one is putting the competitions on social media. You know what I mean? So a while back, and I'll give you an example. A while back, I did a competition with another dealer, another AT&T dealer, and that was Ralph Ramon, and he had his company, Winners Network, and I had my company, Argenta Field Solutions, and we were both AT&T dealers. And so we did a head-to-head competition in San Antonio, and the loser got to pie the other company owner in the face.
The winner.
And so... Or the winner,
got
sorry.
to pie the loser.
Yeah, the winner got to pie the losing company CEO in the face. And so we posted it on social media. We made a big buzz about it. And man, if my guys didn't fight harder for me not to get, or for Ralph to get pied in the face and not me get pied than they did for themselves, man, that was a beautiful, beautiful week for sure.
Little tear.
Little tear. Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, we did win that. We did win that.
Absolutely.
And I do have that video close to my heart. So, but it's fun stuff like that. And it is all in good fun. And you know what I mean? Like if it turns south, then just cut it out. You know what I'm saying? You don't need it. Sometimes that happens. People get offended. You know what I mean? But the whole deal is everybody agrees to it. If everybody agrees to it, that's the deal, right? You don't try to force people to do this stuff. It's just for fun. They don't make any more money because of it most of the time. And so, make sure you have a competitive culture that enjoys that type of stuff, right? So culture, mission, and values, are they present? Are they present in your onboarding materials? Are they present in your offices? Are they present in your conversations, right? You got to make sure your mission, everybody knows your mission statement. Wayne, what's our mission statement?
We help each other achieve freedom.
Absolutely. And then we could also recite the core values, but we're running out of time here. We're over an hour already, so let's wrap this up.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, can you display them? How serious are you about them? And are they present on social media? Make sure that your mission and your values are present. That's a huge part of your culture.
I'll also say it's also having a true mission statement and true core values is the most important. Because in the past, we've had core values, right? They're candy, the sugar coated, whatever people say. It's like, oh, we got to, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And
you can't say it because it's going to be somebody's core value.
I know, and that's why I stopped. And I'm like, I better stop because that may be somebody else. But my point is that don't go, on the internet and Google what are some good core values.
Yeah. Right.
No, figure out what it is that's really important to you, and that's what you need to maintain.
Yeah.
Right. Because you can't walk the walk if you don't believe the talk.
Yeah,
right. You have to believe it.
And so Wayne and I developed our core values, and we looked at our history. We said, not what do we want our core values to be? What are our actual core values? You know what I mean? And one of the big ones is we operate in integrity, and that's been a big one because of the history of door-to-door sales being fly-by-night. You walk into a shady office with a whiteboard, and you make a bunch of sales, and then you don't get paid on time or at all, right? And so it was very important to me from day one that we broke that stigma of door-to-door sales. And I feel like we've done that, and because we've done that, we've been here 11 years now, And so that was a big core value of ours. So make sure they're present, make sure they're all over the place, right? Salesmen thrive on a culture of recognition, right? You don't have to baby them necessarily, but you do have to recognize when they exceed your expectations. So lingo is some of the recognition we like to use. Like when we make a sale, it's a boom, right? A TV and internet sells a double, right? a 10 kilowatt or a 20 kilowatt sale is a whale, right? And so we double down on that lingo, make sure you're using it throughout the company. We have clubs. We have G Club, OG Club. You know what I mean? And now we're gonna have to upgrade our clubs because they're too low. We got guys on the MDU side making $4,000 to $5,000. We got guys or ladies on the solar side making $4,000 to $5,000 in a week. So we've got to upgrade our clubs.
$8,000 and $9,000 in a week, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the cool things, some of the old school things still work. The big checks. Big checks are great. They love holding. Man, nothing is better than a sales rep holding, $1,000 plus check that they earned in 1 week when they used to make, $300-$400 a week before.
Yeah, they make $1,000 a month before.
Right. Exactly.
I've had people say that they made more money in a week here. I've actually had people legitimately tell they made more money in a week here than they did in several months at other places.
Exactly. So the big checks still work. The pins that they can pin to their lapel are great. Social media is a big one. If you look at Argenta's social media, you're going to see salespeople profiles. You're going to see big checks. You're going to see recognition on there. And then this is the big one. And you know what? I'm going to give some credit here. I'm going to give some credit to Vivint. Vivint inspired me a couple years ago whenever we jumped onto their campaign and we saw all their booklets, their recruiting booklets, and the thing that they talked about most, or the thing that they showed you most, was like their custom Nike shoes that had Vivint logos on them. You know what I mean? Their nice throwback hats that had a Vivint logo on it. All their stuff was just so freaking cool. You know what I mean? And ever since then, I've been spending so much money on swag. We got Helios Power wristbands, and we've got Brent Scanner over at Brand Makers has helped us with that. We've got a local company here that does some custom stuff for us. So we've been doing hoodies and beanies and hats and polos and pullovers, and we're making sure our guys are outfitted. And our MDU team doesn't even go to the field, and they've got pullovers and shirts and all that kind of stuff too. It's making them feel like that they're part of something bigger. And Wayne, you've got a pretty good idea for us to incorporate some of our swag into the marketplace, huh?
Yeah, man. What I want to do is, our core values. I believe in them so much, and honestly, I was, it actually came from church, right?
Yeah.
So the church I attend, our worship team has put out a song. It's on iTunes now, and a lot of the phrases from that song they're putting on shirts, right? And so, my idea is to take our core values. We operate in integrity and throw it on a shirt.
Yeah.
Right. Because most people walking around operate in integrity, right?
Or want to
they want to.
Do. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Or, we don't make excuses. We put the mission first. So all those are great. We work hard and we pray hard. That's shirt material. That's great T-shirt promotional material. And so, it gets, you put our brand in the back, the back below the neck or whatever. And, but more than anything, it just gets people, all of our core values. What I love about our core values is they're all real positive. I mean, they're, positive life messages, not just business messages.
Right.
Right. That are super applicable to all areas of life. So, yeah, absolutely.
So swag is a huge piece of your culture. And so, guys, when you're building great sales teams, the Kodak tenets are simply a roadmap in order to remind you, hey, you need to be doing these things, right? Because this is something that just it's 11 years of experience in direct sales, and whenever I decided that I was going to get into consulting, and that was the end game for me, and it happened so quickly because the opportunity came up to do a consulting gig, and I didn't get paid for it. I actually paid to be on the plane to go to that consulting gig, and I ended up being in it and doing a training in it, and I was just like lit on fire. I loved it. You know what I mean? Because I didn't realize that I had accrued all this knowledge over the last 11 years, and it was all systematized and laid out. I just didn't have it in writing yet. So simple one sheet right here, right? And so,
oh look, a one sheeter.
Yeah, oh look, a one sheeter. And so that's basically what this is, guys. And so the next episodes are going to be full of guests that are beginning their great sales team journey or already have a great sales team, and we want to learn from them, right? And so, and I'm going to be checking these tenets and adding to them and taking away from them and honing in on them, and then eventually, I'm going to write a book about building great sales teams, based on the podcast and based on the case studies that we've done at all these different companies and everything. So I'm looking forward to that, guys. I want to thank everyone that has listened to this podcast so much. And if you listen to the whole thing, we're at an hour and 9 minutes. You are a trooper.
Man, I already appreciate you.
Yeah, I already appreciate you so much. But hopefully you listened to it in pieces and we didn't bore you to death too much.
Yeah,
but
no hate mail.
This is all stuff that if you have a sales team or want to build a sales team, you can apply like tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I'm super excited, guys, because I'm having conversations every day. I had one a couple of hours ago with another company that they want to build out a appointment setting team.
Oh, nice.
But it's a call center.
Oh, cool.
Right. And so I had an hour and 10-minute conversation with them, and it's this same type of stuff, and people need to hear it. This is information that needs to be spread, and I've decided that I'm going to be the person to spread it. So, again, thank you for joining us on this podcast. And I'm going to steal some Andy Frisella here real quick, and please pay the fee. The fee is leave a review, share the podcast, share this with somebody else, have them listen to it. You know what I mean? I would love for a salesperson to send this to their sales manager. That would be pretty bold, right? Bold move, Cotton.
It's a bold move, Cotton.
All right, guys. I hope everybody has a great rest of their week, and reach out to me on the DMs. If you need anything, I would love to help. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Building Great Sales Teams. We appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and leave a review wherever you consume podcasts, and subscribe so you're notified when we release new content. Great sales teams aren't recruited. They are built brick by brick. Let's get building.